Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to Tony the Technician's channel. And today we're going to be working on my 2012 Malibu. We're going to be switching out the spark plugs. This is the same process from 2008 to 2012. So any of these years, this is the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder. It's not the V6. So if this applies to you, hopefully this helps. Now during this process, since you're going to be removing a couple things that are connected to the air box, you might as well, if you need a new air filter, replace that, or go in there with a blowgun or a vacuum and make sure to suck up all that dirt or blow it out of there. Same thing, once you get the cover off, we're going to be sucking up all the dirt because you don't want anything to fall in there when you're removing the spark plugs. So to start this out, a few things that you're going to need. You're going to need your ratchet, a 10mm for removing the ignition coils. And then of course you'll need your spark plugs. These are AC Delco. They're the iridium spark plugs, so you do not change the gap. If you do, you can mess it up. They come pre-gapped. A couple other types of spark plugs you can look up, cross-reference spark plugs, and get those as well. But these are the recommended ones. And the number is 41-103. And those will run you about $8 each. Then you'll need a pair of needle nose pliers, some anti-seize for your spark plug threads, some dielectric grease for inside the boot. So you got some dielectric grease. Then you'll need your 5/8 spark plug socket. You can either use the rubber boot one or the magnetic one. As long as it's a spark plug socket, it will work, and 5/8. The other thing you'll need is a flathead screwdriver for removing the clamps, because you're going to have to remove the cover off the engine to get access to the spark plugs. Then you'll probably want a couple rags as well to put in the air inlet hole, as well as to cover the oil cap hole, because you need to remove that in order to get the cover off. So besides that, that's all you need. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my shop vac and I'm going to suck up all the dirt around here, just to make sure when I start disassembling everything, dirt doesn't fall into any critical spots. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, now that I've kind of cleaned this up with the shop vac, I also live in Texas, so it's pretty important. Any place like Arizona, New Mexico, anything like that, it's pretty important because you get a lot of sand and stuff in here. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start by disconnecting this clamp over here that holds the cover to the intake box. You could also use a nut driver for this right here, but it's simple enough. Just loosen it up. And then, like I stated before, while you're taking this off, you might as well just take the entire box off and clean out your air filter box. So there we got it disconnected. I'm going to go ahead and remove this and clean this out. So you just pull this tab back, push down, and pull this clip off. Remove the two clamps up here that hold the box on. And then there you go, you got to your, well, looky there, just dump crap everywhere anyways. But now I'm just going to go in, I'm going to check sure and make sure my air filter's good and vacuum up all this sand and dirt. Okay, so I just checked my filter, it looks pretty good. This does only go in one way. You got this tab over here, and there's a tab spot over here for it to sit, where it just lays right there. But I'm gonna leave it out for now while we remove this. And then next up will be to remove this PCV clamp over here. Right here, you have a clamp that you need to remove from the actual cover in order to get it off. So you'll just need to take your pair of needle nose pliers, run it down over it, slide it off. And then it slides right off. Be careful when doing this though, because the male end where the hose slides on is plastic, so you don't want to break that off. Alright, now that we got the air filter and everything off, there is a screw that goes to another clamp just like this underneath, and you'll have to take your flashlight and kind of look under there with a flathead screwdriver and just go ahead and loosen that. That should be enough. You don't need to loosen it a whole lot, just enough for it to be able to slide off. Now you want to make sure you remove your oil cap, set it up out of the way, and put a rag in there so you don't dump anything down in there. Okay, once you get that done, the back is just held on by a couple bushings, I guess you would call them. It just clips to the engine. And then you're completely disconnected, and you can set the cover off to the side. And now you have access to your coils, and this is where you're going to need your 10mm in order to remove these coils. I'm going to go ahead and set another rag in here. Make sure I don't dump anything down in there. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take my shop vac and clean up everything down here. Alright, so I got that all cleaned up. Now, it's not a big deal if you don't have a shop vac or air compressor at your house. You can also go out and buy yourself a can of compressed air and kind of use that to blow everything out as well. Just if you do it that way, make sure you have these holes covered up so you don't blow anything in there. Now we're just going to go ahead and take the 10mm out of this far one, and we're going to work our way across. Boot comes out. I'm going to go ahead and screw that back in so I don't lose the bolt. I'm just going to lay the coil up here. Now you have access to your spark plug. So, I'm going to grab our spark plug socket. Find it. There we go. And take a look at your spark plug, check the threads, check the tip. This actually looks pretty good. It's not covered in anything, so it's not fouled or anything like that, but you can definitely see that they are worn and they need to be replaced. Now with these new AC Delco Iridium spark plugs, they do say they're good for 100,000 miles, so I shouldn't have to change my spark plugs for quite a long time unless something happens and the spark plugs get fouled. So I'm going to go ahead and put anti-seize on the new spark plug and some dielectric grease, just a small amount, in the boot right here and get it put back on. Okay, so here's the new spark plug. Here's the old one. This is a NGK. The part number is LTR5GP, and the NGK runs, I believe, the same price as the AC Delco. And then you can get it in Bosch brand or one other one. Can't remember the name of it right now, but definitely see this one has a little wear on it, but it's actually in pretty decent shape for a spark plug with around 50,000 miles on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my anti-seize and apply it to the threads on the spark plug. Okay, now that I have the anti-seize applied to the threads of all the spark plugs, you want to be careful when you take them out of the boxes and take the sleeve off of them, because you do not want to drop it or bang the tip on anything, because you could adjust the gap, and it should be pre-gapped to 44 thousandths of an inch. You can double check it, and if it's not right, don't adjust it, take it back, get a new one, and make sure that it's gapped to the correct specs. But now that we got them anti-seized up, I'm going to go ahead and apply some dielectric grease to the boot, and we can start putting these back in. Alrighty guys, I'm just going to take my dielectric grease and put a small amount in the tip. Kind of prevents water to get into the boot, so it's always good to use a small amount of dielectric grease on anything like this. And just put your spark plug in your spark plug socket, and carefully try not to bump it on anything. And you always want to start the spark plugs by hand, because you don't want to cross thread and ruin anything. Or if you don't get it in there correctly and you end up cross threading, then you run the chance of it not having a good seal either, and then your combustion pressure can actually leak through your spark plug, and that's something you don't want either. So now that we got that in there hand tight, we're going to go ahead and turn it with a ratchet just enough to make sure we feel that that washer on there fit snugly up against the block. And that's it. And now we can go ahead and put the ignition coil back on the spark plug. Don't forget to remove the bolt. Just nice and snug, nothing crazy. This is just plastic. Just want to make sure it's flush. So that's the first one. Now we're going to move on to the next three and start reassembling it. Okay guys, so it's the exact same procedure for every single one. Get your spark plug socket on there. Be very careful. And just slowly remove the spark plug. And then you want to check it out. You're going to check all the spark plugs, check the tip, and make sure that there's nothing wrong with it. If there is, and you don't understand what the differences are for spark plugs, you might want to take it to a professional, and they can tell you exactly what is wrong with your engine and why your spark plug is either covered in oil or burnt, broken, and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and remove this one, take a look at it. And then I'll just remove the other two, and then I'll just show you guys the reassembly process. So this one looks good too. Threads look good, and the tip looks good. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace it and move on. Once you have it in, you just snug it down. Just keep turning it until it stops. There you go. And then once you get it and then just snug it down with the ratchet. It doesn't have to be ridiculously tight or anything, just make sure it's nice and snug and that it won't leak. And then the only thing you're going to do next is put dielectric grease, just a small amount, in the boot, and put it back on, and then move your way across. And now I'll show you the reassembly process. Okay, now that we got everything done, we're going to go ahead and start the reassembly. It's pretty simple. You have this little bushing, this one here, and you have a rod here and here, which sit inside these little bushings. And then you got to make sure that this hole right here sits over your throttle body. So go ahead and remove your rag and leave the oil one in. Just kind of line up the throttle body bushing first before lining these up back here. And then you can go ahead and clip down on the back. You can see it just clips into place. Then you want to make sure that this is down. And there you go. Then remember to plug in the hose back to the PCB and put the clamp back over it. Just grab your needle nose, slide it back over, make sure it's nice and snug. Now we're going to go back in here with the screwdriver and tighten that. So make sure that's nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. Now you can put your air filter back in. You can also replace your oil cap. Now all that's left is to put the top back on. Make sure that's nice and clean. There are a couple little pins in the bottom that will make it sit evenly in place. Lock it back up. Don't forget to plug your sensor back in. Lock it down with that little clip. Now, all you got to do is tighten the clamp. And there you go. Alrighty guys, so that's how you change the spark plugs on a 08 to 2012 Chevy Malibu 4-cylinder. This is the flex fuel. So the spark plugs might be different on the normal 2.4 liter non-flex fuel. So make sure you check that out before buying the spark plugs. But it's a pretty simple process, only takes about 20 minutes. It took me a little bit longer just to set up the camera and do all that good stuff, but it's really a short process, really simple. Just a couple things holding that cover on, and The spark plugs are pretty easy to access. But thank you guys for watching. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Thank you guys once again. See you guys next time.